It was. And
Yeah.
oh, yes. Hey, how are you? Did you get my email?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
But apparently I have.
Yeah, it's just a backup in case something goes
Yeah,
wrong.
sure. I know. It's always when you forget to do this, it always happens. Would you like some coffee?
No, I'm good. I had too much coffee today.
I have seen an ad in Untitled.
Oh.
And it's, wow, a familiar face. It's Jerry.
Oh, you saw me on the ad?
Yeah.
Yeah, for Marine.
Yeah.
Fantastic. How are you? Well, technology is good to go. Everything is set. Now we just need people.
Yeah.
Well, if the whole city shuts down, you will all have plenty of tea.
Oh, yes. Some strategic.
Yes. Be prepared in case of a zombie apocalypse, I guess.
I think we have some recording there, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look.
Антон, слушай, ты звук приглуши свой. А, не Сергей кто? Сергей.
Hi, how are you? Good. Good. Fantastic. Hello. Good to see you too. Yeah, you can sit anywhere you want.
Морозы приходят, что он просто сразу
Слушай, а тут ты видела, чувак поставил, предлагает курсы обучения Excel. Если не помню, то посмотрите. И такие.
Я сказала, как вообще не трогала. Автоматизация внутренней маркетинговых активностей. И Петя съездили, почву загружает, и сразу начинается письмо с почвой фритрайл, несколько гайдов обучающих в попытках повысить конверсию, потому что очень мало людей покупает из тех, кто скачан. Слушай, ну удивительное дело, когда парадокс. Те, кто покупает, они зачастую вообще не связываются. Ну, то есть 9 человек из 10 ни разу не напишут. Просто купили, и все. Нам пришло письмо, купили. И
Купили, все хорошо.
Да, почему, что их мотивирует? Вот вопрос, как с ними
Можно какое-нибудь, типа, знаешь, личное письмо от SEO. что типа, здрасте, я такой-то там SEO компании, там было очень много пятна, бла-бла. И так пару вопросов задать. Ну, как вариант.
Что, может, не надо как-то по отдельности их подцеплять и отсклонять, что
Ну да, вообще,
для них важнее.
это такое правило хорошего тона, которое идет, что как транзакция, что письмо именно какого-то типа личное, да, ну,
Спасибо, что купили, добро пожаловать в Сапог.
Чего?
Последним центром можно посмотреть расширенную версию, там есть только заключение. Вот если клиенты познакомят, то бесплатно,
Еще знаешь, вот эти компании, которые занимаются поставками программного обеспечения, типа консультанты, ДНС, вот они тоже занимаются, в том числе, если через них.
не цельно.
Ну, в том числе, это.
Да? Ну,
бухгалтерских штук полезных достаточно.
Hi all.
Hey, how's it going? Good to see you.
Подсадили студентов, говоря, решил.
Я думаю, кто
Потому что,
здесь,
для
да?
моего удивления, вот эта технология, она работает везде. Мы старые работы проводили анализ по лесопромышленникам, уже международные производители беспокойтесь, что отрабатываешь. Они, собственно, так и выходили. Вид там большой, наверное, получается. Ну, лет, скажем, 10 назад мы поставили всякие специализированные свои оборудования. Эти товарищи, когда они выросли, мы начали заказывать.
Хочешь?
Good job. Well prepared. Now you're really hard out. Okay. Yes, if anyone needs paper, they want to take notes, please. The notes that I have for today, I will make available. I've already emailed them to Maria, so if you want a copy, you can get a copy quite easily. But take notes on what you think is important right now. We divided this new program into two different sessions. There'll be one today, and then Andrea and I will come up with a game plan for the second session. But today we're going to cover two things. The first one, we're going to talk a little bit more about business introductions. We covered this a little bit at my last session about a month and a half or two ago. And we're going to talk about making 5-minute prompts and just practice that a little bit more. We won't spend too much time on it, but I think it's something that's important. It's also the thing that you're most going to experience with native speakers, is that awkward moment when you try to meet somebody and they might be speaking too fast, or you're not sure your English is good enough, and you have that moment of indecision. So we're going to practice that a little bit today. Then we're going to talk about business meetings, how to run a business meeting, plan a business meeting, what are the expectations. Some of this will be review. You'll say, oh, I already knew that. But many of these things will be, oh, I never thought of that. So hopefully between all of you, you'll share some ideas. You'll get some ideas of things that I have from my experience and that I gathered, and we can add them all together. Please have a seat. No, you're fine. So keep in mind the Guide to Better Business Meetings and our subsequent class, which will be on specifically how to hold distance meetings using technology and what are some of the tricks and some of the things that you want to try to avoid. This is a new program, so you're getting to get it the first. It's never been tried on a live audience. I've had guinea pigs at home, but this is the very first time that I've really broached this topic because it hasn't been something that was really requested, but Andre and I had spoke about it. So we'll get to this, but first, what I want you to do is we have an even number of people. I want you to turn to the person next to you, and I want you to introduce yourself in English as if you're meeting for the first time. I know it sounds kind of like, school, but this is important because we're going to talk about some of the things that you do good and you do that you might want to improve on. Some of you will do better than others. That's okay. We're all going to get better. But we'll start with you two since you sat up front. Okay.
Hi, my name is Maxim. I'm a sportsman, activist, and journalist. And I want to meet you and know you better. Please tell me what you.
I'm Julia. I'm marketing rockstar at Joyful. We do the best of the world. And also, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, and I want to talk to you about your preferences in sport.
Well, yeah,
Well, I like volleyball, and I like swimming, and make my body better. Make me doing those things make me feel better, and I like to spread my feelings about it with other people, and I like when this results in their preferences in sports, and they change their life to feel better.
Yeah, good yes, of course. Yeah. No, we're gonna stop you there. Okay. Here's where things change. We're gonna start from the beginning. I'm gonna start with this. The first thing is you want to meet her. Start with shaking her hand. Oh, hi, I'm Jerry. Nice to meet you. And your name?
Julia.
Julia. And what do you do? Notice. Right. Okay. Notice that I ask her what she does first. Okay. People love to talk about themselves. All right? Let them talk. You probably heard me say this before. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. To do twice as, I'm sure there's a Russian anecdote that says the same thing. But so all this is good, except it sounds like you're asking her on a date. Hi, Julia. I'm a sportsman. I like to stay fit. And so instead, we want to put this in a business context. And so ask her what she does. And then when they ask you questions, answer, but follow with a question, usually along the similar lines. So I ask you what you do, you tell me where you work or what kind of profession you have, and then you say, and what do you do, Jerry? Okay? And by using their name, when you respond, it also helps you remember their name, which will sometimes be difficult. It's very difficult for native English speakers to remember some Russian names. Okay? Some of them are very easy for us, like Maria. Okay? Very simple, easy, because there's lots of Marias in US. Julia, obviously, as well. But names that are difficult for native speakers to remember, Svetlana. We don't have Svetlanas in the United States, for instance, and very few in Great Britain. It's an uncommon name. So be patient with them if they mess up their name. Okay? Be patient with them. It's usually not intentional, but correct them. Okay? Yeah, correct them, but be patient with them. Don't, be understanding. But again, in a business sense, we want to create a 5-minute friendship, but this is a business friendship. Okay? And while all this is very interesting, of course, it's not necessarily the most important thing. The most important thing is, who am I and who are you, and what do we have in common? And once we establish that, we can go to a different level. For instance, maybe my business has something to do with yours, maybe we have same background, and then you can go from there. Sometimes it won't. It'll be awkward. And that's okay. Sometimes you'll meet somebody and they'll say, oh yeah, I'm in sewage treatment systems, Jerry. Sewage is like where the toilet's all empty out. And so then we treat this, and there's people who do this. Me and a sewage treatment engineer probably not going to have a lot in common. Okay? He's going to be interested in things that might.
Unless you're building a country house.
Unless I'm building a country house, okay? In which case maybe it can be helpful. But again, sometimes you'll find that there's just no connection. It's like that girl or guy that you talk to for the first time and you think they're smoking hot, but then after you talk to them for 5 minutes, you're like, oh no, okay, this is not happening. Hello, how are you? Come around this side so we can see you guys. It's obsessive compulsive disorder. I will try not to fall down. Thank you, I appreciate it. All right, so that's okay. You were first, so it's I picked on you. All right. So ladies, you're gonna go second. Let's see. We'll build on that a little.
Hi, I'm Maria. You? I'm Anna. Good to meet you. What brought you here?
Andrea brought me here, to be honest. But I'm very interested on how to hold the meeting and to be good in it. And what brought you here? Why are you here?
Business, yeah. I work as a marketing analyst in the company, so frequently I have to have business meetings. So it's very good to keep up to date. And you? Do you communicate with customers, or what do you do?
Yeah, some part of my professional activities is holding demos, so it would be very helpful for me to know where I'm good and what is bad and what should be improved. So I'm looking forward to work.
You mean demos, and you communicate virtually? You basically do not see the person?
In most cases, yeah. And what about you?
Normally it's face-to-face, yeah, or emailing. That is very interesting. I mean, distant communication, and it has some specific activities probably there.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, because you don't see the person, and you can understand does he like something or not, and based on his intonation and maybe poses and something like that. It's
Psychology.
It's so healthy. Yeah.
All right, very good. I'm gonna stop you there. You guys are just having a conversation. This is turning the example of turning an awkward situation. You didn't know you're gonna have to talk to each other, and finding a conversation where it's not in your comfort zone. It's not something you do usually. And when you go to exhibitions or conferences, I was at the NEVA exhibition 2 weeks ago. Huge exhibition, people from all over the world. I knew almost no one. And most of them did not speak English. And you all know my Russian is horrible. So So one of the things that was awkward for me is not just introducing myself, but asking intelligent questions about people to try to make friends. And this is not always easy. If you can create that 5-minute friendship where you find some common ground, you can stay smiling, which is really important, then what you'll find is that perhaps you won't make a connection that's important for the two of you, but if you exchange business cards, you'll make connections with other people, especially at the exhibition. Great example. I met some people with a Korean free trade organization that is here in St. Petersburg, and I did not have any business needs with the Korean group, but I knew some people who did, and I introduced them. And then as a result, they felt like they should introduce me to some other people who did have a use for what I do. And so now I'll do some more trainings for a different company that makes pipes or
Gazprom?
It's not Gazprom, but they're affiliated with Transneft, which is the transport that we use here for oil and gas. But in any event, I'll do some presentations for them. So just by connecting with people, this is how we network. And you do this by just being friendly. But you have to feel comfortable enough to have that conversation. And it's awkward, but you did good. So a couple things to remember, which you both did well. You both smiled. Smiling is important. Posture is important. Think about that time that you went and asked somebody out on a date, or someone asked you out on a date. Hi, you want to go out with me? You want to go to dinner? Oh, yeah. The way we hold our shoulders, if we have them slouched, the way that we hold our head up, this is important. Some of this is review for me because I've talked about this before. You know, keeping your chin up, keeping your shoulders up, don't slouch. Movement, it's hard to stand still, perfectly still when you're meeting people. So movement is good, and just don't violate their space. And we don't want to stand this close to someone while we're talking. That's awkward. But you still want to move back and forth. Just don't run away from them either. You know, hi, I'm over here. But keep that in mind and keep it very comfortable at your level. And if it's not comfortable, it's awkward, and you just then say, it was very nice meeting you. Have a nice day. And you're done. You move on to the next person. But conferences, exhibitions, business meetings, this is very important. We're going to talk about business meetings later, but it's important to make that 5-minute friend, even if you only have less than 5 minutes. Okay? I call it a 5-minute friend because you're not really friends. And in the U.S. context of what a friend is, it's much different than the Russian context of a friend. We have lots of friends.
Like on Facebook?
Like on Facebook. It's, yeah. American friends are more like Facebook friends. Not quite as bad as Facebook friends, but more like Facebook friends. And what we would call colleagues here, or associates. So just keep that in mind. But you guys do good. See, getting better? All right, guys.
Hello, I'm Andrew.
Hello, I'm Roman.
How are you?
Not bad, thank you. And you?
I'm fine, thanks. I work here for 10 years, and usually I should talk with our foreign customers a couple times in a day, and it's interesting if I do it wrong or correct. And I've been to UK once, so I've met them, and usually our conversation is not formal. So probably I will know something new now. What about you?
Yes. I work at the company for about 10 years as well, but unfortunately within the last couple of years I have lack of experience in spoken English. Because most of my clients are Russian or and had some experience, and the rest of clients is communicate by mail, especially without talking to me in English. So I'm afraid my English spoken skills not very good.
I think that the common rules are the same, and it doesn't matter if you conversate with Russian customers or English customers. So probably there is some specialty, but in common cases it should be the same. I think.
Agree with you.
So,
Very good. I'm going to stop you there. All right. Thoughts? What did they do well?
Not bad.
What?
Not bad.
What did they do?
They smile.
They smiled. Okay. Smile's good. All right. What else?
Shake hands.
They shook hands. And it was a good handshake. It wasn't a wimpy handshake. Okay. This is important even for women. All right. There's none of this. All right. It's a good handshake, and but let go. All right. Let go. It's a little awkward here. I'm gonna use you again when you're doing this, and I'm just standing here holding her hand. Right now, that's creepy. Okay. And even between two guys, that's creepy too. Okay. So yeah, know when to let go. But yeah, you guys, good handshake. That's good. What else?
They told about their professional kind of work they do every day. About their experience in this company. Maybe tell something about the experience.
They did, and I'm going to add to that.
I
You spoke, and did you say Andrew?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is the second time in 3 years that I've heard someone say, my name's Andrew, instead of Andre or something. And the first time was last night. So 2 times in 3 years, and it happens in 2 days. So, okay, Andrew. Andrew said that he wants to improve his English because he's working with clients and whatnot. And you fed right off of that and spoke about your own English speaking experience. This is how you want to build your conversations, is find some commonality, something that is similar between you as soon as possible, so that you're not fishing. So fishing is when you get your bait out into the water and you're just sitting there waiting. Okay, don't wait. Put it someplace. Start talking about new things to create some commonalities quickly, which you guys did, which was good. One thing, of course, we're all sitting down, so it's a little bit different. So one thing, don't lean back away from them. They'll think that they have bad breath or that something's wrong. So if anything, lean a little bit closer, as if you're eager. When I teach young people how to interview for a job, I always teach them to sit on the front edge of their seat because they can't lean back. And by sitting in the front edge, you sit up straighter, you look more eager. And this is a good sales technique if you're speaking to a potential client. You don't want to have this approach. This approach is a little arrogant in the sales meeting. Instead, you want to have this approach. Your shoulders a little bit forward. You're speaking with some confidence and enthusiasm, and you look as if you're eager. You're excited. And when we posture ourselves in speaking, it's the same way. Hi, how are you? I lean in, right? Often with guys, don't get weird about this, but I'm going to use you again here. Guys, they'll do this, all right? There's nothing wrong about it. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. Mostly with guys. It doesn't happen very often when a guy shakes a woman's hand, but with other guys they will. So be prepared. That happens sometimes. It doesn't mean they're frisking you or trying to pop a feel.
What about the previous variation you showed when just the second hand joins the first one?
That's weird.
But in some
Okay.
cultures it's quite usual.
And if they do that, then let them, okay? But my strong suggestion to you is not to. And I'll base this on my experience. I was at an energy conference this last Friday and Saturday here, and I was meeting with some people from CNPC. They're Chinese. But even they, who have more of a tendency to use the second hand, were very strict in not doing that. They didn't even do it. You'll find that most accepted is going to be just one single handshake. So if they do it, don't be like, but at the same time, that's not the approach that you want to do. Well, ironically though, when I was at the NEVA exhibition, I met with some people from the Russian Maritime Registry of Shipping, who was also a client of mine. And so I met one of the ladies there that I had done our previous presentations, and she wanted me to watch her presentation. It was all in Russian. I understood maybe 50%, but she was very excited. And afterwards, she kept holding my hand. She was so excited. You let that go because she was just excited because she has overcome some of her fears of presentations. There was a couple hundred people there, and she did really well. That's not so awkward if you have a relationship. But if we just meet, that's a little weird. All right. What do you think? There's some things they could do to improve. One or two. We're talking about on Andrew and Ron.
Oh, well, I got an impression that Andrei started talking about himself even without being provoked. He just hello and started talking about his intentions, problems, not problems, his mind.
That's good. We look for cues. These are social. We call them cues. It's like, think of the theater, and you have the director in the back going, "You're on," and it's like a cue. Or when the conductor cues you in music, they're giving you these little hints that this is your moment to enter. I didn't think there was so much wrong because Roma was a little bit more passive at first, and so Andrew took kind of the lead of the conversation, which is an unspoken cue. When someone looks a little awkward or nervous, Americans especially, we hate silence. We'll fill the silence with talking. So I think that's a natural response, but good observation either way. All right, you're the last two, and then we're going to switch to business communications.
Sorry, I was late, so what's the purpose of this dialogue?
It's just introducing yourself as if you just met at a business conference. You don't know each other, and you just want to share a little bit of information about each other.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Ruslan.
My name is Lisa.
I recollect having you seen at the same meeting last year. Were there?
Yes, I think we seen here.
Yeah, for real, I think so. What do you do?
I'm a project manager in Viac's company, and I'm a very young manager, and so I request this election to improve my skills in business meeting, because I'm very shy when I have to call our customers, and I'm very shy and I don't know how to feel their feelings and how to know what they want in this moment, and how to feel their emotions. And what about you while here?
It's a funny coincidence. I also work in the software development industry. Yet I'm a team lead and a senior developer, and I do often communicate with our customers in English. They are mostly English too. And my interest in this conference is to better handle conflicts, because there are some particular persons whom I conflict very often, and I hope maybe I can handle this better.
Do you have conflicts with your customers or?
Yes, head of development on the English side.
All right, I'm gonna stop you there. That's good. So this is good reason to be here. Conflicts, and I think Maria will probably speak to this because you spend a lot of time in front of customers face to face. That oftentimes solving conflicts is easier in person. You cannot read body language. You cannot read emotion. You can't read into what you write always. And so, especially when you don't have a really good command of the language, that can be challenging. When I write emails sometimes in Russian, I get angry responses back. And you know me, I'm smiling. I honestly, nothing stresses me out enough to write a bad email. But sometimes we just don't have the grasp of the language. And this is a good lead into why business meetings are so important. Sometimes we can't do the kind of business we want just through email or over the telephone. Sometimes it takes bringing people together and being face to face and having these types of meetings, which is why we're going to spend so much time talking about this. But let's go back to your conversation. Both of you very enthusiastic. What are some other good things that they did in their introduction?
I think it's very good when you share something you're vulnerable, some of your fears. It connects, makes a personal contact.
Absolutely. Anything else?
Someone started like they have already met and have already been friends. So it's a good step.
That's good. It shows confidence, and confidence is contagious. This might be an American cultural thing, maybe it's a Western European thing. I don't know where it comes from. It could be universal, but people like to follow people who are confident. If you can inspire other people. And so Ruslan seems very friendly, but he's, like you say, he's very enthusiastic, and you spoke about your vulnerabilities, but instead of glossing over those, he talked about the same types of things, which is good. That's finding that opening. What are some other things? Anything else you noticed? They did really good, so. Anything else? What do you think you could do better?
I really don't know. We have missed.
Okay. What do you think you can do better?
I could do better.
What?
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe ask something about the business.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, and I didn't give you much time to take it to the next level, partially because we started just a little late, and this is our first run through on the other, and I don't want to keep you past 6:30 because I know you're all busy people and want to get on with your lives, which is one of our topics for today. So I get this out, and that's about time. So again, this is the first run through. So if I messed up a slide or spelling or whatnot, please point it out to me and I'll fix it for next time. But I tried to proofread it because Ruslan caught one of my spelling errors in one of my last presentations. So, guide to better business meetings. I compiled some ideas that I had of what should happen during a business meeting. And by business meeting, I mean any conference that takes place between individuals in a live setting. It could be 3 people, 10 people, it can even be 20 people, although I recommend having business meetings that are that big. They tend to be less productive. But in any event, I tried to come up with the ideas that I had of what should happen at a business meeting, and then I consulted some friends that I have in the United States and one in Great Britain to get some ideas of what they do with their companies. And then the last thing I did was surf the internet and find some ideas of how Google and Apple and some other tech companies handle their meetings. Because I thought, well, they might have some ideas that are very specific to wave access because they're in the tech industry, and perhaps there's something that's special in the tech industry about business meetings. But in any event, I find that most of these things are universal. You can use them in any context, in any business meeting. So the first thing, if you're planning a meeting, we're going to think about this as if we're planning. All right? So we'll say Andrew, oh gosh, I want to call you Andre. Andrew is planning a business meeting. He needs to get some people together. The first thing in making a business meeting is plan it. Don't just throw it together by sending out a mass email saying, hey, let's get together at 2:30 on Friday and talk about this. There needs to be more thought that goes into it because people have busy lives. And you need to make sure that you have a good, clear understanding of what's supposed to happen at this meeting.
Is the plan an agenda?
It's more than an agenda. Planning a meeting is an event. Think about it this way. Do you just throw together dinner and have 10 people over at your house for the evening? It's hard to do that if you just, come on over. You still have to start thinking about, do you have food? Do you have drink? Who's bringing food? Who's bringing drink? When are they going to arrive? When are they going to leave? All these things have to go into just planning a simple get-together at your apartment. And when it's business and you have money on the line, or potential clients, or colleagues, then we should give it a little bit of thought before we just throw everybody into one room. So, good business meetings don't happen by accident, all right? Nothing seriously productive usually happens by accident. It's usually because there's some highly driven people who have a plan and they execute that plan, and that's how things happen. Wave Access never developed a piece of software by accident. Okay? It never just, oops, guess what? We have a new piece of software this morning, and wow, we already sold 1,000 versions. Okay? It just never happens like that. So have a plan. So things that you want to consider during planning. Number one, what's the purpose of the meeting? This sounds like a no-brainer. Like, of course, what's the purpose? But you need to be very clear. Is it a sales meeting? Am I meeting with a new client? What's the goal of the meeting? What do I want them to do at the end of the meeting? We need to know that before we even start. Because if we want them to buy our product and it's a sales meeting, then everything needs to be focused towards them writing a check or giving us money or contract, something at the end of the meeting. So make sure you understand the goal or the purpose. And this should be clear to not just you, but to everyone who's there. Sometimes I hear salespeople especially say, they're bad salespeople. Well, we'll surprise them with the plan and the program at the meeting. Don't surprise them. That's just awkward. All right? Make sure they know what to expect. They're coming to the meeting because you're going to show them your product, and then you're going to sign them up for your product. That should be advertised to everybody involved beforehand, because if they're truly not interested, they won't waste your time or theirs to have the meeting. Save everyone a lot of time. But make sure you're clear. Next, who needs to be there? One of the biggest mistakes I ever see is that I see companies have meetings and they invite a bunch of people to the meeting who have no purpose. As if, well, they should just be here because the more the merrier. It's not a party. Okay? There's a purpose, there's a focus. If you want to have somebody at the meeting, know why you want to have them there. They need to have a purpose. Are they going to speak? Are you going to try to inspire them to do something else? Do they need to approve the project that you're doing? What's their purpose? Why are they there? And think about that before you mass out email everybody to have a meeting at 2:30 or 4 on Friday. Just make sure you have a plan on that. Time frame. When will it happen? How long will it last? This is one of the biggest failures in meetings. They don't start on time. They don't finish on time. Or people don't understand what time the meeting actually is. There's some miscommunication. So make sure you have that in your plan. And then who else might benefit from being there? For instance, maybe you don't need your assistant to really contribute, but you're going on vacation for 2 weeks, sometime in the near future. It would be good if you had him or her in on what's going on in case you're not there to take care of problems down the road. Think about who might be able to benefit from being there. Maybe somebody you're mentoring, maybe someone who is looking at something that's similar. But think about opportunities. The other reason is through collaboration and communications. Too often in companies, the left arm doesn't know what the right arm's doing. And so they're kind of flat. Imagine trying to swim. Okay? Communications are really important. Sometimes it's nice to have people involved so they know what's going on in other departments. This provides opportunities for collaboration. Maybe they can help you with some piece of the puzzle. It just depends on what the purpose of the meeting is. All right, and the purpose of the meeting is important. It is the only reason why you're there. Okay, the only reason why you're there is for the purpose. Don't get sidetracked on a bunch of other issues. If you're there to sell a piece of software, focus on what you have to do to sell the software. If you're there to brainstorm for new ideas, then don't get sidetracked talking about problems with old ideas. The purpose of the meeting is to brainstorm, then let's brainstorm. Let's not focus on the other stuff. If the purpose of the meeting is to solve problem A, then let's not talk about problems A, C, D, and E, just A. And that's part of planning the meeting is realizing how you're going to attack these problems and keep people focused. All right, so some of the reasons to have a meeting. New account, I talked about this, sales pitch. New account, prospective clients. A new program launch. You're starting something new. Coffee house is rolling out a brand new pastry and they want everyone to know how to make it. Maybe, probably not. They don't spend any time on meetings. They don't train their people. That's why they're a bad organization. Go to Bunch instead. They're a much better organization. But new program launches. It's good to have everybody on board with what's going to happen. Ongoing projects, program status reports. Maria gave a presentation on an ongoing project and a status report, one of our last sessions. This is a reason to have a meeting, is so everyone knows where the project is. And evaluations. Sometimes you have a meeting to talk about someone else, okay? Or to evaluate a program. Brainstorming, I just touched on this. Brainstorming is important, especially in the creative sector. And then the last one is just communications. And this is one of the things that can be difficult, is when to have communication meetings and when not to. Usually companies err on having too many meetings instead of just keeping people informed through email. And then they make you sit through meetings and you're stuck there for an hour and you're like, why am I here? I have nothing to contribute. This is not useful. It's a waste of my time. I could have done a bunch of work at my desk. In planning, we avoid some of these problems and we maximize the potential and the labor of the people that are here instead of wasting it on things that just aren't important. So that's my biggest point. A meeting's often not even necessary. Don't plan unnecessary meetings. And I'm guilty of this. Andre and I talked via email for like 2 weeks about how to set up this program, and then I decided that we should meet, like an idiot. There was really nothing to discuss. I should have just said, do you want to do it or not? And if he did, then I'd say, great, when do you want to do it? And it would have been done. But instead, I came all the way down here, and we met for 20 minutes and decided, okay, we're going to do the program. Probably didn't need to happen. But so keep that in mind. Don't waste people's time with useless meetings. All right? And don't waste your time. You're more productive if you don't have a meeting and if you don't need to have the meeting. So just keep that in mind. But once you're in the meetings, once you're actually planning the meetings, in the meetings, you're going to have to use event planning skills. Again, these things don't happen by accident. And too often we say, well, Jerry, how do I have a good business meeting? Well, the first thing you do is you figure out, where's your meeting going to be? How many people are going to be there? You need to plan it like you're planning your mom's 50th birthday party or your parents' big anniversary party or a wedding. Think about the planning that goes into it. Every detail. Where is everyone going to sit? How many people are there going to be? If the meeting's going to last longer than an hour, should we have a break or no break? Should we provide coffee and tea, biscuits or cookies or something? These are things you want to think about. I recommend no food. If you have food at the meeting, people have their mouths full of food and they might have a comment and so this is probably not good. Also, they eat foods that are loud and it's disruptive. It makes a mess on the table and crumbs get on documents. It's just my recommendation: stay away from food. Limit drinks. If you have too many drinks, then people have to get up and leave in the middle to go to the bathroom. Okay? So limit the amount of drinks. And if you're thinking about it's going to take so long that people might go to the bathroom, find out what you can do to shorten it. Quick, just like our presentations that we studied the last time. Precise, know what you want to do, what, how, and go right to it. Don't make it a big production. You're planning an event, but we want to get the event done. It's like going to Zox. It's like, boom, every 30 minutes they pop a couple out of there. All right, congratulations, you're married. You listen to Titanic music and you're gone. Right? And that's what they do, all right? And yet we put all this effort into planning that 30 minutes and what's going to happen afterwards. Okay, I know this because I'm getting married at Chernyshevskaya on the 24th. So so I'll be at Zox.
It's not plain Zox. It's
Zox Deva or whatever.
Well, it's a palace of wedding.
Okay, well, I don't know what they do. And it's really not I don't know. It's a room. I watch all these VK videos of it. It's a room, and there's a lady there, and she says some things. I just wanted to hear what those things were, so I knew when I was supposed to say da. Okay, and but again, we've put a lot of effort into the planning. It's only going to be 30 minutes. It's quick, and your meeting should work and function like this as well. Is you put most of your effort into it before it ever happens. And then, once you get to the field, so to speak, this is a sports analogy, you practice, you practice, you practice, you practice, you get to the field, and you're only on the field for an hour. You execute, you go home. And that's the way your meeting should be. So use your planning skills. Some other things to think about, and I made a couple notes here. Who's going to speak at the meeting? Why are they going to speak? Why would you have them speak? If you can't tell me why that person should speak, maybe they shouldn't speak or they shouldn't be there. Everyone who speaks should have a reason. Otherwise, if we try to do this by democracy where everyone gets to talk, then meetings last forever. Okay? If it's a brainstorming session, you do want everyone to speak, but you don't want them to speak for long periods of time. You're firing out ideas, and we'll talk about brainstorming and how to make those better. But what technology are you going to use for your meeting? This needs to be planned ahead of time. I got here 30 minutes before I was supposed to start. And fortunately, our guy here always has this all set up. He helped me with the technology because we have someone watching from far away. And he had that all set up, but I got here a half hour early to make sure. I made sure that my clicker works. I made sure that my PowerPoint was going to load up. I sent a backup of my notes and my PowerPoint to Maria in case I couldn't. This is the kind of preparation that goes into doing any kind of business meeting or any kind of event, is that you have to prepare for those little things that can go wrong. And next week when we talk about web-based meetings, even more, we have to think about these eventualities of what can go wrong, because it's not always reliable. If you've had a Skype conversation with someone in America, you realize it's not always reliable. My mom gets very irritated sometimes if our Skypes get interrupted. But what else? Who's going to manage the time? I said you want to start on time, finish on time. Who are you going to put in charge? Are you going to be in charge? Are you going to keep a timer? Some companies use a regular coffee timer that starts screaming as soon as time's up. How are you going to manage that time? Who is going to facilitate? If we have lots of people who are talking, who's going to say, okay, thanks for your comments, I appreciate it. Roma, what do you have to say? Who's going to direct that? Who's in charge? So these things all have to be taken into consideration.
Who will be taking notes?
Very good point. That's one of the suggestions, is assign someone who will take notes. And then we'll make a copy of those notes and send them to everybody. We call these the meeting notes, or some people get paid to do this professionally in the United States. Maybe they do here too. I don't know. But this might be a position for someone you think might need to come that's not essential, but they might come. You might bring them just to take notes and type up the notes.
Is it usual for the same person to take notes, facilitate, and keep time?
It's possible. It's not recommended. If you put too many hats...
I mean, take, say, a secretary who takes notes, assigns presenters, and watches the time.
Oh, if you have that one person who does those things, absolutely. I mean, that's possible. And then, and they don't have to necessarily be the leader of the meeting.
No, nothing like this.
Yeah, so feel free to delegate. This is what you have staffs for. And if it's a group project, share the load. You know, it's a lot harder to carry the big tree on your own shoulder. It's a lot easier if we all just take a hand. And so if it's a project-oriented business meeting, then yeah, share the load. Absolutely, good idea. Proper planning avoids confusion. This is a good example of a bad meeting. She doesn't know what's going on. They're talking to each other. He's bored. She's kind of paying attention. And I think this guy's actually talking, but is he talking to everybody or just this guy? The better you plan, the more effective your meetings go. And this is a class that I see these kind of meetings all the time. And I'm just wondering, what are they here for? Is it just a way to get out of doing work for an hour or two, or are they actually there to accomplish something? So this is part of the reason that we have to plan. All right. Some do's and don'ts. Etiquette. This is really important that we stress some of these things. They may not be proper business meeting etiquette here. but they are very proper business etiquette in most countries I've been. The number one, be on time. If you have been invited to a meeting, don't be late. Be early, at least like 5 minutes, not 20 minutes early, unless you're organizing. But if you've been invited to a meeting, don't walk in late. It's not like a seminar or a presentation. The reason you were invited is because you're important to the process. It's not like you're walking into physics class, you know, and so you miss the first 5 minutes, or you walk into Jerry's seminar. When you're at a business meeting, they invited you specifically because you had something to contribute. And if you're not there, then it messes the process. And they'll resent you for it. So don't be late. And if you're in charge, like I said, come early. Make sure everything is properly set up. Be prepared. Next, turn off your phones. Okay? I know that here, in my experience, many people will be in the middle of a conversation with me. Their phone will ring and they say, oh, excuse me, Jerry. Okay? And here, I let it go. All right? In most Western companies, if you're even in a conversation and you answer your phone in the middle of it, it better be really, really, really important. You need to explain. Otherwise, it's rude. If you do it in a meeting, it's really rude. Okay? If you're at a table like this and we're all talking about sales figures for last month and Maria's phone rings and she just gets up and walks out of the room, okay? And we're like, hello, we're talking about the sales figures. If she wasn't important to the meeting, she shouldn't be there to begin with. And if the phone call is more important than the meeting, then she shouldn't be at the meeting to begin with. Turn your phones off. It can wait an hour, half hour, or whatnot. But it's considered really bad etiquette. It'll blow a business deal in a heartbeat because the customer doesn't seem important. They're like, well, obviously, whoever Andrew's talking to is more important than me. Why should I buy anything from Andrew? Okay? And so if you do have a situation, okay, Andre, he's a busy man. He has lots of people. All right? If he's in a meeting and he knows, hey, I have a situation going on someplace else, I might get a call. The most polite thing to do at the beginning of the meeting is, hey, guys, before we get started, I'm just letting you know, my wife's pregnant. She might give birth at any time. If I get a phone call and I leave, that's what's going on. All right? And everyone's going to be like, all right, no problem. But I tell them ahead of time. All right? I don't just get up and leave without explanation. If you do have to get up and leave, and it's that important, don't just walk out. Wait for a pause, some kind of moment in time where something stops, and say, hey, guys, ladies, excuse me, but I really need to take this phone call. I apologize, but it's really important. It has to do with X. You give them some kind of piece of explanation, and you walk out. If it's unexpected, you have to do it. But you don't just grab your phone and try to sneak out of the room. It's a meeting. No one's going to like, oh, where did she go? They're going to all watch you go. Okay? So just announce it, own it, say, hey, my bad, I'm sorry, I got to do this, and I apologize, and go back. Don't try to sneak. All right? It never works. Pay attention to the speaker. So we'll look at this picture right here. This lady's talking to this guy, but this guy's the one doing the presenting. This dude's got his feet up on it. I don't even want to talk about that. Or it's a gal, I guess, because she's wearing heels. But she has her feet up on the table. She's on her phone texting. Pay attention to the speaker. They think it's important. If you don't think it's important, tell them you don't think it's important and why. They invited you because you have some value to the process. Give feedback. But don't be rude and not pay attention. Even if it's boring. even if you think, gosh, why did I get invited to this meeting? In Western circles, if I am giving a presentation on our new product line, and I look over and Ruslan is playing with something in his pocket or whatnot, not even looking at me, my first impression is, wow, excuse my language, but what a dick. Okay, and this is how we view it. It's a relationship killer. I might have known Ruslan for 3 years, and my point is that, wow, if you're my friend or we have some kind of relationship and you don't care enough to pay attention to what I'm saying, right, then obviously there's some kind of deficiency there. And it's not acceptable in business circles in the West. Absolutely not. No matter how boring it is, and it can be tough. It can be really tough if you don't understand the language. Trust me. You know how hard it is for me to sit through lectures in Russian sometimes when I'm lost and I'm just like, and I have no idea. But the last thing I would do is pick up my phone and start like looking at Facebook or checking Brent oil crude prices or something instead of paying attention to speakers. Because many of them are my friends or I have some kind of relationship with them. So just keep that in mind. Other things, learn everyone's names. Okay, if you're at a business meeting and you don't know everyone at the table, get there a few minutes early and introduce yourself, exchange business cards with everyone at the table, everybody who is involved in the process. Oh, wow, that's so much better. Yeah, that's good. I'll keep them awake. Yeah, so you guys don't fall asleep on me. But learn their names, and I'm going to teach you a really easy trick on how to learn and remember everyone's name at a business meeting.
You use it.
What's that?
You are using our names regularly.
Oh, that's one reason. Okay, that's one reason. That's how I keep everyone involved, but that's a presentation skill. This is a way that when you're at a meeting and you're at the end of the table and you're like, I know her and nobody else. Sometimes, if everyone's new, this happened when I was at a roundtable discussion at the energy conference, and we had members from Japan, Korea, China, Belgium, Poland, and obviously the United States because I was there, and then 2 people from Russia. I only knew 2 of the other people, but nobody else really knew each other either. So we had a moment where we all introduced who we were to the rest of the group. And when they were doing that, I was writing down their names. And I should have drew this earlier, but I would make a diagram of the table and I would write their names with wherever they were sitting. Okay? Wherever they were sitting at the table, I would write their names down. And then I could peek at it as a cheat later on, especially when some of my counterparts were Japanese, okay, and Chinese and Korean, because those names are difficult for me to just remember. Luckily, the Chinese was just Mr. Wong, so that was easy, right? But the Japanese guy was Matsura, so Mr. Matsura, and this is difficult for me to remember sometimes, much like Russian last names are very difficult for me to remember.
What about Thai?
I've never had to remember a Thai person's name. Luckily, I have one Thai friend. Her name's Alyssa. This is ironic. My first girlfriend's name was Huynh Nguyen. She was Vietnamese, Laotian. Huynh, Huyên, Nguyen. My second girlfriend's name was Miha Gorbanzadeh. She was Iranian. This is when I was young, much young, I was a school child. And I remember their names, but now I can't remember anyone's. So this is a really good technique. And so then later, like Ruslan pointed out, I use all of your names as I can to help, 1, just keep you involved, and 2, it helps me practice. But what's even better is you save this. And so then, when you have to send an email to one of these gals or guys 2 to 3 days later, and you're trying to remember, oh God, what was her name again? And you have your mouth.
Can you please say again, what word do you use for ladies?
Gals. Gals.
Gals?
Gals.
Gals.
Gals, like G-A-L-S.
Okay.
So we say guys, gals.
Okay.
More commonly now, we just say guys as all-inclusive, gender-neutral, just guys. But some of us are a little older. We still say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Some people like me and guys, gals. What's that?
It's much better.
Yes, it's it's the old way. Back when we used to open doors for people and now let them slam in their face and stuff like that. But yeah, make a map. Just make a map of everyone at the meeting. You'll find that it's a great tool because you'll remember 2 days later how everyone was sitting. And you'll be like, okay, so it wasn't her, it was the guy next to her, and that guy was, got it. And now you can find the name, write an email, whatnot, follow up. Great technique, but definitely learn everyone's name. If your meetings are so big that you can't remember everyone's names, it's probably not the best meeting. Meetings of more than 10 people tend to be not productive. They don't get much done because there's too many chiefs and not enough Indians. You have this anecdote?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure I always know that there's a Russian equivalent for all these anecdotes.
Well, actually, I didn't see any Russian equivalent, just translation.
Just translation? Okay. So yes, if there's just too many people, it's hard to get anything accomplished. But so keep that in mind. I already told you, don't eat if you can avoid it, and drink sparingly so you don't have to run to the bathroom. And like I said, it just makes the meetings go a little bit smoother. If you plan a meeting and it's around lunchtime, a great thing to do is invite everyone to lunch afterwards. That way, if anything didn't get completely resolved at the meeting, you can take advantage of the informal environment of lunch to talk about things further. Or if I just want to talk to Julie about something that came up in the meeting, having the lunch gives me an opportunity to talk to just her about that thing. So plan your meetings around those meal times and use those to your advantage if you can. Or even if you're in Great Britain, they love their tea time. Plan a meeting before or after tea time, tie it into your meetings. It's a great thing to do. Also, if you're trying to schedule a meeting on the internet, Skype, or to email or talk, try to schedule meetings with people in Britain to take place right after their tea time, so that you'll be the first person that they talk to when they get done, and that puts you first in line. It's like being at the door when they open it up at Dixie at 9 o'clock in the morning when I forgot to buy milk the night before. I'm always that first person. If you can be first in line, you get their undivided attention after they've had a break. Take advantage of these cultural things that we have over the British who want to sit and have tea once a day.
Does this habit spreads across many strata?
Usually. I even see, except for like the lowest income levels in Great Britain, I still see people, even if they don't drink tea, take a break.
Interesting.
At that time. In Spain, we still see people take time off for siesta, even though most of them don't take a nap. But they still take that time off. In the U.S., we don't have these same scheduled, cultural, hard-pressed habits. So those are tough to play on. But if you can time your meetings with Americans to happen shortly after they start their workday, that's a good time for them. After lunch is not the best time for Americans. Okay? Morning Americans are much more productive. After we eat, which is usually too much, I'm a good example of this, we tend to get tired and we tend to be less productive, and also less energetic and enthusiastic until 5 o'clock. And then 5 o'clock comes, that's quitting time, and then we have all kinds of energy again, and we run out the door. But mornings for Americans are probably best.
Oh, when does the American morning start? 6 a.m.?
No, usually businesses, 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. And that's a little bit earlier than a lot of places. I think most places here start at 9 o'clock, but I know some businesses here that start at 8 o'clock now. In the south and southwest of the United States, many businesses will start about an hour early, sometimes 7, and that's because of the weather, especially in the summer. Arizona, for instance, by 12 o'clock noon, it's often 120, it's often 45 to 50 outside. So they try to get as much work done early before the sun comes up, and then they finish around 1 or 2 in the afternoon. But they're the exception. Most places, the U.S. start at 8 or 9, and that's the best time. We've had our coffee, right? And we hit Starbucks, and we're all amped up on caffeine. We're ready to hit the door. If you can be first in line, then that's a good thing. So.
And how about lunch? I mean, here we have at 2, 3 o'clock.
Yes, lunch is difficult. You'd be surprised how many Americans don't eat lunch, who just work through their lunch. I worked for a company for several years when I was developing a training system for that company. And when I did that, I had to work with their employees who did not take lunch breaks at all. They worked 10-hour shifts, no lunch break. But they always had 2 days off, and they got paid overtime, which is 1.5 per times what they normally make. Everything over 40 hours. So they make $65,000, $70,000 a year, and they're just middle managers, so they'll lunch. Who cares? They'll eat while they're standing up, so they don't take lunches. Some of them.
If you want to schedule a meeting, the best time would be, say, from 9 till noon?
Yeah, I would say noon, you're safe. Noon. Most people in the U.S. won't go to lunch until 11:30 or 12 at the earliest. Some people 1 o'clock, but 12 is about normal. And if you can get it done before that, meeting it before then, you're in good shape. And not everyone is fat and lazy in the United States. I know I give that impression sometimes, but we do know from sociological studies and workplace development studies that people are almost half as productive in the last 4 hours of the day in the U.S. as they are in the first 4 hours. I don't know if that holds true in other countries, but in the U.S. it's definitely. Meetings are better in the morning too, for that reason, if you're going to have a meeting. Here, I think it's probably a little bit different. I don't know if I would have my meetings in the morning here, mostly because Russians typically tend to be late. And that's my experience. It's not a stereotype. It's just my experience. So, when you're at a meeting and you have a comment, you're like, all right, I need to say something. Make sure it's a focused comment on something. Like Maria asked very clear questions. She didn't talk for 5 minutes to ask a question. Know what you're going to say. Say it. If it's a question, say the question right away. Add some context if you must. But no speeches. Don't give a speech in the middle of a business meeting, unless they asked you. You're on the agenda to talk for 10 minutes, then talk for 10 minutes. The other thing is that hold your questions when someone's speaking for a little while to see if they answer it. One of the things I teach in the presentations is to talk at the very beginning. If you have questions, in my presentation, if you have questions, write them down. And if I don't answer them, I'll get to them at the end. And the reason I say that when I do long presentations is because I usually know what your questions are going to be before you do. So think about that when you want to ask a question in a business meeting. You're just think, okay, maybe wait just a minute to see if they give me the answer, and if not, then I'll just say, hey, real quick, like, again, perfect, like Maria.
I've heard it is an American style in books, first to use some terms for several pages and then introduce it.
And sometimes it's not the best. It's not the best method, but we do have a habit of doing this. This is because of American ethnocentrism, and ethnocentrism especially. We assume that everyone knows everything that we do or sees the world the way we do, and so this filters into our presentations, especially internationally. We use terminology, and then we're like, oh, now we'll explain it. And everyone else for the first 10 minutes is saying, what does this mean, or what does this mean? Typically, explain your terminology to anybody you're not 100% positive they know what you're talking about. And in software development and the industries that Wave Access is familiar with, there's a lot of technical terms. And perhaps you all know what they are, but make sure everyone at your meeting knows what those terms are. And it doesn't hurt to explain it, or stop periodically and say, does everyone got that? Because that'll make your meeting more productive if you're not ambiguous. So keep that in mind. Let's see where we're at on time, so I don't run you over. All right. Types of meetings. So I talked about making sure you knew what your program was about. So one thing I want you to just think about is what types of meetings you have. And communication meetings, for instance, are about trying to communicate with different departments so that you might understand what's going on collectively. They're not my favorite meetings because often I find that I'm never useful in there. Because no one ever talks about training and development, which is my area of expertise. They're always talking about new product lines and sales figures and things like this. If you're planning a communications meeting, try to make sure you get everyone involved. If it's just a matter of just talking about what's going on in the company, and some companies have these regularly, but make sure you keep everyone included. If it's a brainstorming meeting, here's some tips for brainstorming. Keep it free and safe. If you want to create ideas in a brainstorming meeting, it should be a short meeting, 30 minutes, maybe an hour. Keep it free, keep it safe. All right, everyone, start throwing out ideas, and we'll start writing them down. Do not evaluate the ideas right there. That's not what a brainstorming meeting is about. Brainstorming is come up with some ideas, and then at the end, choose which ones we're going to investigate or explore after the meeting. The meeting's not about finding solutions right there. It's about brainstorming for potential solutions. This is a technique that Google used with their Google when they launched Google+. This is one of the reasons why they were able to, in the first 90 days, they put 100 new features up in the first 90 days, which is a pretty incredible feat, but it's because they were able to create effective brainstorming sessions, and then afterwards put people into motion, investigating which ones are positive and are not. Keep it positive. Don't be negative. Someone might have a stupid idea. Fine. Let's have all the stupid ideas and all the great ideas. Want to hear a really stupid idea? This one kid in college had a really stupid idea about being able to take a package from anywhere in the United States and taking it to another place in the United States in overnight. He got a C- on his college paper writing about it. And then he turned it into building FedEx off a stupid idea. There's no stupid questions, there's no stupid ideas. You never know how these things can be built on. So if you're doing brainstorming, encourage everyone to participate. Don't shut it down. Bring solutions, not problems. You came to a brainstorming session, don't talk about all the problems with A, B, and C, and oh, and she did this, and oh, the boss, he's an asshole, and all. You don't have time for that. You're here to brainstorm. And so don't talk about the problems. It kills the mood of the creative process, for one, and it just eats time. All right? You can go home and bitch later. You can go back to your office and complain later or talk about other issues. But when you're at the brainstorming meetings, just fire away. Make it as creative and fun as possible. Again, I took this from Apple and from Google, and actually I took it from some people who stole it from these two companies. And they make startups. They do these little small apps. They're a startup company that does apps in California. And this is how they manage the process, because they all have real jobs on the side. They do this part-time, so they don't have 2 hours to talk about all the problems. Make sure you encourage everyone to participate. All right, so overall strategies. There's my alarm. I'm in charge of my own timekeeping today. So, oh, that's a horrible slide in the slide.
This one is better.
Oh, okay, there, look at that one. It looks so much better there. I like at home on my Mac, it looked great, the red and a bunch of old guys sitting around talking. Some overall strategies for you. All right, here's some strategies. Make sure your meeting has that clear stated purpose, like I talked about. Make sure that the attendees walk away with a clear message on what they need to do next. When you have a meeting, if it's a sales meeting, what do you want them to do next? Sign a contract, pay you, okay? This is what we want to do. But make sure that your message to them is clear, that that's the intention. If I hold a meeting and my intention is that we're going to create this new program and we're going to get all of our employees to sign up to the new health program that we have. It's going to make sure they have dental and they have eye care and they have everything. All right, great. Everyone talks about it, but I need to make sure who's doing what afterwards. Okay, Andrew, after the meeting, you're in charge of this, this, and this. I'll have the person who's taking notes follow up on it, but this is your thing. Maria, you're going to be doing this. Roma, you're going to be doing this. Okay? Before you leave the meeting, everyone knows. Otherwise, and you've all been to those meetings, because I've been to them too, where you're like, okay, great, that was awesome. You all walk out, and no one knows what the hell they're supposed to do. And they all think, they're like, oh, well, Julia's doing it, of course. And Julia doesn't know. Right? And so you want to be clear when you're running the meeting what's going to happen. Apple used a way to handle this. They called it DRI, which was the direct responsible individual. And this was the Steve Jobs concept. But it's a very good technique. We called it a bunch of different things in companies I work for, but it just makes someone accountable to each facet of what the meeting's about. So when you create this environment, and you have people talking, you're sharing ideas, and you're like, all right, cool, we're going to do this, right? Who's going to do this? And by we, do we mean you and the mouse in your pocket, or who's we? We need to make sure who those people are. The other thing is when you plan a meeting, make sure there's decision makers there. I see this all the time. Let's have a meeting, and then at the end, well, this sounds good. Hey, can you get approval from the boss? All right, what's the point of having the freaking meeting if we don't have a decision maker there? This happens in sales all the time. We plan a meeting, we get in there, we're going to make this great presentation, and then the guy who can write the check or sign the contract, he's in Cairo, vacationing in Egypt. Why why did we waste everyone's time if the decision's not going to be made? Because now we have to do this whole process over again. Make sure when that planning stage you invite the essential people and you know that they're going to be there. And get somebody who's in a position to make decisions to be in that spot. Sometimes there'll be multiple decision makers and you need to gather them together. In order for that right arm and the left arm sometimes to move so that you can swim and not drown, you need to have both of them in the room. So when you're organizing your meetings, focus on those essential actors. One last thing, and then again, I made a list of some other suggestions, so you don't have to remember this because I'm speaking fast. But these are some ideas for business meetings you can put right into motion, not a year from now, but tomorrow, okay, or next week or whenever. But I will ask them to print these out for you. You can have them as a reference. And some of them are my ideas. Some of them I begged, borrowed, and stole from other people. And some of them is just open source stuff out on the web. But one thing I didn't want to stress before we go is, I think I might have already stressed it. Regular meetings. How many of you have to attend a regular meeting, like every week? Okay, some of you. Maria, you're kind of doing that. No, okay. All right, so some of you have to attend regular meetings. If you're in charge or you have some input on how those meetings are run, try to make them at the same time, same days, okay, so that you can plan on it just like the British do their tea time, okay? But try to make those regular and try to create a system that evaluates how effective they are. One of the biggest problems we have with meetings is no one ever asked the people afterwards if they thought the meeting was effective. They're just like, all right, good meeting. Everyone's like, yeah, great meeting. They're just happy to get the hell out of there sometimes. They're just like, thank God it's over, I can go. All right, but we don't ask them later, and I don't go back to them and say, hey, what did you like about the meeting? What didn't you like? Okay? Sometimes we fail to do this. I have to be honest, here it seems like there's a pretty good system of acquiring feedback, at least in my experience with Andre. But this is something you want to make sure that's built into your meeting plan, is at the end, how am I going to get feedback on how successful the meeting was? And sometimes this is easy, sometimes it's difficult, but there should be a plan. Email the people, send them a questionnaire on SurveyMonkey or something like that. Do you guys use SurveyMonkey?
I've heard about it.
Okay, it's just fill out a questionnaire. It's usually like 5 questions, and you just rate some things, and it's anonymous. You can do that. I mean, there's some creative ways, but get feedback on your meetings so you can make them more effective, especially on regular meetings. What I have found in my experience is that regular meetings just become a habit. And then when you sit down and you ask people, why do we have this meeting every week? They're like, I don't know, because we always did, right? And, sometimes there's just no reason to have these things anymore. So we want to evaluate how effective they are. And and you're all creative people, so, thinking around the normal shouldn't be unusual for you. This is something you do anyways. But evaluate those regular meetings and try to make sure they're as effective as possible. Next week, we will stand up and do introductions. I will make them harder, and I'll ask you some weird questions to make it awkward for you, just to make it real, because it's always more real when you meet that person. And we'll do that for about 15 to 30 minutes, somewhere in there. And then we'll talk about how to use technology and doing these web-based meetings, Skype or group deals. I don't know. I don't even know all the different software programs that are out there, but there's some etiquette and some things that we can address individually, separate from this. The other thing is, you need to come prepared with some questions. So I want you to think about, I gave you some overview of business meetings. Throughout the course of your adventures this week.
Didn't you switch it off?
Well, I did. I switched my thing off. During the course of your adventures this week at meetings, take notes. Why do we do it this way? Or what do you think about this, Jerry? Or what are ways that I can improve this situation? Or any question that comes up. Or how do they do this in the U.S.? Why do they do this in the U.S.? And bring those questions. Chances are, if you don't know, one of your colleagues doesn't know also. And so then it becomes valuable for all of us. And we'll take some time to talk about those things. This also gives you a chance to practice your English. Since I spent all this time talking, we'll get you more involved so you get to speak more English next week. Any questions for now before I let you go home?
Thank you.
You're not allowed to go home though because we have to go to your emails. So, and that's the other thing. Maria sent me some emails, right? They're emails, right? And this is something that I did in the previous lessons, is talk about how to make more effective emails. This is ongoing. There's no limitation that says, okay, well, that seminar's over. I can't ask Jerry questions anymore. If you have a question about how you might improve your emails or about a set of slides that you put together for a presentation and you just want some feedback, send them to me and I'll give you honest feedback. Or if you just are watching The Walking Dead and you're like, Jerry, what the heck are they saying here? Then
I have a couple of questions like this right now.
Okay, well, yeah, and that's, yeah, so those, yeah,
a better movie.
about a movie. So on those, well, since I'm right here, you can ask me after the meeting, but you can send me messages on the contact you or email, and I'll give you direct feedback on those things as an ongoing thing. To me, it takes me like not even 2 minutes, so it's not a big deal. But for you, it will help your understanding of some of the difficult parts of English. Because sometimes, like we talked, you can study for 10 years and then you watch The Walking Dead. And I use that as an example because the Fear the Walking Dead was on the other night and my phone got blown up by people saying, Jerry, what does this mean? Or Jerry, what does this mean? And so I was explaining some phrasal verbs or metaphors to them. So I'm a resource to you, not just during this time, but all through the process. So, have a great night. We will see you all soon. I will have, Andrew, you know everyone who is here, yes? Yep. I want to send them my notes via email. Okay. So can I send those to you and have you forward them on? Okay. Great.
So I just last weekend when I saw the great movie named Alice's Restaurant, 1969, and for a couple of things I'd like to ask you about.
Okay.
As an American.
I'm gonna be honest. I have not seen Alice's Restaurant.
I recommend it strongly.
Okay. It predates me.
By the director Arthur Penn.
Who is it?
Arthur
Penn.
Oh, Arthur Penn. Okay.
This is based on an 18-minute song by Arlo Guthrie.
Ah, okay.
So the one question is, the movie features a road billboard saying, there are beautiful Katya here. I just would like to verify whether I got this correctly.
Okay.
Is it, well, obviously it has to do with going to the army for the Vietnam War. But does it have anything about?
It's not even really about the Vietnam War. So in 1969, we have this hippie movement.
The events happened in 1965, 1967.
Okay. But it's about the hippie movement. And
right.
Guys started growing their hair really long.
Yeah.
And so for a long time, we would make billboards in America to encourage people not to throw their trash out the windows of their car. And the campaign that we did, this advertising campaign, was to keep America beautiful by not littering, throwing trash out. So then they played on this with keep America beautiful by cutting your hair and not being a freaking hippie. Although we see lots of pictures of protests and hippies or whatnot in the civil rights movement of the 60s, what you'll find was the majority of Americans, about 85%, didn't like people who were in this free love hippie movement. They were extremely unpopular. In film, we don't see this. We only see it like much one side.
Well, in this film, it is quite honest and similar to documentalistics in how it delivers the atmosphere.
Yeah, and that's what they mean. They're just like saying it's just one of their. There's a song called Signs, which is based on the same thing. Signs said long-haired hippie people need not apply. Like, if you have long hair, don't come apply for a job. But that's all it's saying is that, cut your hair, look normal, and America will be beautiful.
Okay.
So, another one?
Another one. Twice in the film, they used this gesture towards another person. So this is another person. It's a peace, right? Peace. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so that's the peace sign. So this is peace. They still use this. You'll see American athletes use it all the time.
So it is not victory, it's peace.
It's peace, not victory.
Interesting.
Yeah, not victory. So,
okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, keep firing. Just send me messages if you have more, because they come up. That happens to me every day. I see signs. I know all the words in Russian, but I don't understand the advertisement. And that happens to me, and it's not because I don't know the words. I don't understand the context culturally. So,
okay. In case you, for any reason, don't want to ask your fiancé or Diane, you can ask me.
Yes, I will definitely do that. Thanks again. And did you print them out, Maria?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
awesome.
there was just a quick question for you.
Yes, sir. Oh,
This
thank you, sir.
What are the next
So next Thursday, I have to be at the school at Mushasva to volunteer with the course kids. But I can do it. I know Tuesdays is difficult and Fridays is difficult. So so we have that option. But the following week, I don't have to be there until after 7. I think it's 7:30, 7:45. So 2 weeks from today, I could do it on Thursday at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, it will be good.
If that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It will be good, yeah.
Okay.
You can find this. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Yeah, also
Yes, sir.
question. You told that you were
I said.
Yeah, you said.
That's all right. I'm helping you.
That you were developing a training program for some companies.
Yes.
Do you still do this?
Yeah.
Well, because we faced the problem that we have newcomers.
Yes.
Too much of them are having holes in their knowledge of technologies, and we are planning a training system to get them to the better level.
Up to speed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have some time, or are you working with this to help us with this?
We could sit down. We can sit down and see what things that you want to accomplish and where you are now, and what kind of resources that we can utilize to get you there. Of course, the trainings themselves, my language skills would not be good enough
Oh,
didn't
yeah,
touch on, to do the actual training of those individuals, but I could help you develop the program that would get them where you need to be. Is that for here or is that different?
This
Oh, it's
company,
here?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I would really be interested in sitting down and doing that.
I heard that you'll be, next time you'll be here is next 2 weeks. Okay, I think I'll be prepared to talk with you about it if
Okay.
you have time.
No, that's fine. Send me an email
Mhm.
so I can block it out on my calendar,
Mhm.
and we'll set some time after our meeting next time, and perhaps either here or at, we can even go to lunch, lunch or something for coffee if you want. And also send me an email of what things that you, what ideas or just basic information to help me get just a sense of the problem, what you want to fix, and how many people we're talking about, how much time, and that will help me help formulate a plan before I get there. Yeah, it helps me prepare before I get there.
Also, we'll provide some description of the program that we already have.
Okay.
And the activities in that.
Okay, no, that's good, and that's a good exercise for you in English to have to explain it to me as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Very good.
Thank you.
Good to see you again. All right, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so let's.
Do you have 10 minutes?
Oh, I have more than 10 minutes for you, Maria.
Thank you. Just to put it in a context,
I'm gonna sit down if that's okay, if you don't mind. I've been standing for a while.
well, I'm writing some marketing emails. We're kind of developing this whole automated marketing chain, etc.
Right.
So these are a few templates. They are a little bit skewed in Word format. But anyways, what I care is your feedback about the whole message thing. So the first, this would be one of the first emails, and this is the last, and I'm leading them from trial to end of buy.
So my first impression is that I haven't read anything that's on here, but I have no fear of reading it. It's very clear. It's got a nice picture with the graph on there, which makes, I'm hoping makes sense to me. So just looking at the way it's laid out, looks that looks good. This one, the same. Is this a live button?
You
It's a
click
live
on
button?
it and it
Okay,
takes
I
you.
love that too. Okay, because if I am interested, I just want something that's going to tell me what I need to do next, and I'm hoping by clicking on it, it's going to walk me through the process, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Then the look of them is good. The only thing I would tell you is that it starts to look like it's a little bit long here, because so we do have some bullets. I'm just trying to think which ones might be the most.
Some of this text is red.
Yeah.
Basically the key message, the key value of the product.
Here's what I would do. I would add this, save 20%, pay only $57.44, and then with a money back guarantee. You can get rid of this whole thing and just put with a money back guarantee, and that eliminates one of them. And then on this, I would say priority customer, online customer support, and one time. If you combine these, it's instead of pay only once, it's a one time. We love doing this in English. It's just because all that one time, lifetime, and that's one word.
Oh, nice.